What happened was.
Hey friends, it's so nice to see you. It's today, the time is now. You are here and the weather is outside your window.
Today's guest is my friend and publicist, Bryan Buttler of Bryan Buttler Media Relations. Bryan has had the most incredible career, multifaceted, working across all genres of the arts, even working for Cirque du Soleil. But when the pandemic hit, Bryan jumped in and helped his community in a beautiful way and became a news story himself. Please welcome my friend, Bryan Buttler.
Hi,
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm okay. Happy day to you.
Happy day, happy day. I think this background's very appropriate for your show. So
Perfect.
kinda
I really
perfect.
appreciate
know,
it.
yeah.
How has the last year been for you?
It has been a major learning experience, I think, for everybody. In some regards, I have been very, very lucky because I've been able to help a lot of my clients and been able to help a lot of people, period. I think also it just like really redefined for me, and I think for a lot of people, just what we do, even as human beings, no matter what we're into, no matter what we do, or how we deliver it. I think there's like this whole system of values that has kind of come to the surface. And for me, I think, it's here to stay, which is really good.
For me, especially, like I focused on quality of life and
Yeah.
prioritizing some of those things that I don't when I work 10 months a year.
Yeah.
And I want to hang on to those things.
I hope we can. I mean, I really hope as a culture that we can. The whole idea of like working from home and telecommuting, I think we're going to see some of that continue. I know people still who have literally not left their homes.
Yeah.
I mean, so talk about like a readjustment to society. We're looking at like a totally different animal.
It's kind of exhausting to be around people, I have to say, because of being alone so much. I'm
Yes.
struggling with that. My battery runs out quickly.
Oh, ditto. And I'm a publicist. I shouldn't be saying that. That my battery runs out. My battery has been dead. No, I agree. I think like it's a totally different thing. And I think people have become, I was listening to Brene Brown earlier today, and she applied this to 9/11, post 9/11, but I think it's going to apply very similarly now. The idea that like, we went from post 9/11, right? The whole idea of like, are we on red alert? Are we on orange alert? Are we on yellow alert? Just sort of like internalizing that and really having this like thin veil of just complete anxiety all the time post
Mm.
9/11. I think it's going to be the same thing after COVID. Like, people have been stuck in their houses. They literally have lost people who they
Yeah.
love so much. There's been so much uncertainty.
I think the most important thing is just having empathy and
Yeah.
being kind and loving to everyone and understanding that it's going to be
Yeah.
a challenge. And we've all been challenged in so many ways. And a lot of people have been, a lot of people are very private about their challenges. So you have no idea what someone has been dealing with.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're public people.
We're very public.
We talk about everything.
Yeah, but you
Publicly.
know what though? Like, I know you really well, and I consider you like one of my really good friends. I mean, there's certain
Absolutely.
things you don't put out there. Like,
That's true.
yeah, no. And I think don't ever assume that you know somebody just because of what they're seeing online. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so much of that too. I mean, that's a whole other like topic for a
Yep.
whole other show. You could do a whole hour just talking
Yes.
about that. But
Yes.
like, yeah, no, I mean, you really don't know what someone's going through.
Yes.
And we've created these like really eerie echo chambers online too, where we
Right.
can just own in and jump on board and like attack each other and listen to what we want to hear. So yeah, no, it's this very weird world.
Well, and that's what you do for a living is you present people publicly and present the story that they're telling. and sometimes steer away from the stories we don't want to be telling, right? And it's like a whole art of crafting a public narrative and branding.
Yeah, and it's made this past year has made things all the more challenging with that too, but also some really cool opportunities. I mean,
Right.
I think one of the big things people are looking for right now, or that they're really interested in, is how are we like re-emerging? How are we like coming out the cocoon? And
Yeah.
we still don't know 100%. I mean, we totally don't know. I don't think we're going to know for a while, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. So it really is. You said the word art. It really is. I mean, it's a lot of art. It's a lot of strategy.
Yep.
I'm just figuring out what's going to land and what isn't going to land, what we talk about and what we don't want to talk about.
The other really challenging thing as far as publicity and marketing go this past year is that we know that we are in a pandemic and people have been dying. And it's like, how do you publicize your Zoom play and remain sensitive to the fact that we've lost 500,000 Americans?
Yeah, no, this was definitely a real challenge for certain organizations. And I think honestly, it had to deal and it showed what their true colors were before this. They
Yes.
had really good, like, people skills and really good ethos. It wasn't as challenging for them to put out to the world what they were doing and why it was important to, if we're talking about the arts, if we're just going to stick there,
Yeah.
like why it was important to support artists, why it was important to support people who were still making things, what
Right.
that really did to help elevate and alleviate people's fears, anxieties, etc. That was real easy for some folks. For other folks who maybe really didn't have that established pre-pandemic, it made it 10 times harder. It's this very tricky balancing act.
Right.
And I find it really interesting to
Yeah.
see.
Absolutely. And such a reminder that we're not all on the same page, and it goes state by state, and it also
Uh,
goes with people's personal comfort levels, because you have places like the Beef and Boards Dinner Theater in Indiana that have been producing the entire pandemic. And then Florida just got back to full performances indoors recently. And then in opera, most festivals are outdoors this summer. And so there's we're not all in the same place and haven't been for such a long time.
Never mind. I mean, one of the big things I deal with a lot of news outlets, right? Like main
Yes.
news, like TV. And, I think there's a real general public misconception that now that some of these things have been lifted, these restrictions that just like, bam, tomorrow we can put on a show on a
Right.
stage. Well,
Right.
not so quick. Number one, especially if you are represented by a union, the unions have still not figured this out yet.
No.
Like, so it's so many layers. Never mind the rehearsal that has to go into it. We're still looking at questions of vaccinations. The general public doesn't necessarily understand that for mass entertainment, it takes a buffer. It's going to take this buffer
Yeah.
of months, weeks before it can actually launch out again in any sustainable form.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, never mind. I mean, we're talking about like socially distancing in a venue. Does it really make sense for a venue to open? These are all big questions. I also think, too, truthfully, what's really blown my mind and blown a lot of people's minds is just it feels like how rapid fire the restrictions were lifted. Like, bam, bam, bam. Here
Yeah.
you go. All right. Well, that doesn't give anyone time to prepare.
Right.
That, and you also kind of couple it with this crazy phenomenon of there not being enough people for these jobs
Right.
in service level. So, for ushers, for whatever you might be looking at, for bartenders, servers. I mean, literally, the Starbucks in the complex where I live is shutting down every day at like 6 p.m. They don't have enough night staff. So,
Sure. Sure.
um, there's that question too. It's like a whole nother layer you have to look at.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think the public generally doesn't fully understand the behind the scenes of what we do, and that's not their fault. Like, we're not very transparent about that, and you would have to be in it to fully understand. At stage doors on Broadway, I've been asked like, "Oh, so what's your day job?" You know, and like I'm not gonna get mad at somebody for asking that question, but it like just goes to show things like that. Or I've been asked before if it's like community volunteers that come and design and build the sets, and it's like, no, that's
Mhm.
someone's job, you know.
Yeah.
But people just don't know. So how would they also know that there's like 5 different unions that are negotiating with a company in order to get us back on stage, not to even get into the safety of an audience. So
Yeah.
there's just so much work to be done. And
What is your day job, Zach? What is that day job?
it's this. Yeah, I do this show and I do tarot readings on my front step.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're so good at it. I know.
Yeah. Early on in the pandemic, when we were all freaking out, I noticed that you threw yourself into service and being there for other people. And I know that the pandemic was as hard on you as it was on all of us as far as venue closures. Your work for Cirque du Soleil was just like wiped off the schedule.
Oh, yeah,
And that's like your steady income and you're a huge part of your job
yeah.
with what you do. So yeah, I wanted to hear more about this beautiful thing you did because it was immediately getting all this attention and suddenly you were in the news and like it was really cool to see because you're everyone's publicist and then all of a sudden you're the story.
I'm the store I know. So what happened was I am just naturally the kind of person, and I've had to work so hard on this. I just can't like sit at home and do nothing. Like I'm just not like I always feel like I have to be doing something or like helping somebody. So when things first started to lock down and there was so much uncertainty, you could really see that fear across the board. No one had ever really done this before in modern, times. And I just started listening to where there were needs. Where it really started to jump off was a good colleague of mine had posted that one of her very close friends' daughter um, has a certain condition where really the only thing that she's able to consume is Pedialyte through a feeding tube.
Wow.
And this is back when people were hoarding every single little thing out of Target, CVS, the
Right.
supermarkets. And one of the things that you could not find, just like you couldn't find paper towels, you couldn't find toilet paper, you couldn't find Lysol, you couldn't find Pedialyte. It was
Mm.
one of the main things people were hoarding. You know very well at Target might as well just be like my living room. And some weird reason there was Pedialyte available for pickup at the one by me. So I DM'd my friend and said, "Hey, like, I think I can get some bottles. Like, let me get it. And I'll just meet you somewhere to give them to you." So sure enough, they had a Pedialyte. I have no idea how I got the bottles. I met my friend in a Starbucks parking lot, and it was like a drug deal. Like literally, we kind of pulled around back, and she was really, really panicky about COVID, and so was I. But she was so panicky that like I put the bags of Pedialyte in my trunk, popped the trunk. She ran out, grabbed it, closed the trunk, wiped it down with the wipe, and we got back in our cars. I remember I posted on my social media what we did and
Yeah.
posted a picture. And before I knew it, one of the editors from the Philadelphia Inquirer, who I work with as a publicist, saw it on my Facebook. And next thing I knew, I got a phone call from a writer saying, "We're doing a story about you." So it kind of started this like mini movement of like doing one good thing a day to try to help. A couple other news outlets picked up on it. They just thought it was like a cool, nice thing. And I was doing anything,
Yeah.
like everything from, you know, finding a small local food pantry near me, which you'd be really surprised locally if you do a quick Google. There's probably one right in your backyard, and just donating canned goods, driving over to I somehow secured. I don't know how. It's just one of those other items that was like a hot commodity was antibacterial hand gel. I went, no one could find it.
No.
I am like, the FBI, the internet. I go to a wholesaler who makes soap, who sells like soap products. You make soap at home. And I'm like, let me just see. Sure enough, they had a gallon and a half size of hand gel still left. So I ordered it. I was like literally making people bottles of it and like
Yeah,
sending it. People were really appreciative of it. Just the idea of like, hey, here's some hand gel. You know, people are like, well, I'll send you money. I'm like, no, 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 that's not the point. That's the
right.
whole point of me just to give it to you. It just made me feel a little bit more connected to like everybody. Made me feel really good. And I know it was actually like making somebody smile, which was really hard the first month or so of
Yeah,
this. I
yeah.
mean, especially I know for a lot of people who are probably listening to this who are in the live entertainment industry, that first month was horrible. I
Mhm.
mean, people
Yep.
just saw their livelihoods completely drop out from underneath them. And anything to do to kind of put a smile on somebody's face was really worth it. And I continued that, I mean, throughout. I was involved with a effort locally. It was an international effort called Red Alert that turned thousands of buildings across the country, really across the world, red as a sort of visual indicator to local governments that they had to look at a way of fiscally supporting live entertainment gig workers. It was all small things that ultimately made, I would like to think, a nice impact on people I knew and then just generally the world. And God, we need it so badly.
Yeah,
Anyone
absolutely.
need it.
Well, I'm so appreciative of you, and for many reasons, great friend, incredible publicist, but also you got me the information to get my vaccine, which was amazing. But you're so tied into
FBI,
so many
FBI,
worlds.
the internet, that should be
Yeah.
enough.
Oh, I know, I know. But just because you do work for, so many nonprofit organizations, theaters, and but also you work for a casino in Atlantic City, you work for Cirque du Soleil, like you're so widespread and you talk to every news organization every day. So you're an incredible resource for like actual information, which was very lacking this last year.
It's been so much fun. I mean, working together and continuing, and you've done a great job on this show. This show brings connection in a way that I think a lot of the other digital content doesn't. It's a place where people can listen and learn stories to get the idea that, sometimes we think failure is like a personal thing or that situations change and it's our fault. No, it's just life kind of show and go another direction. I think this is what you've done on this show is to show people
Oh,
that
thanks.
you know, this is just life showing one way, and you never know what's going to happen. So,
Yeah.
so many lessons to be learned from all your guests on, and it's so much fun too.
Can I ask you some questions?
Yeah.
Okay, where are you right now?
I'm in my apartment in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania.
Zodiac sign.
Leo Virgo cusp.
Ooh, favorite work of art.
Some of the most incredible art I've ever seen was during my time in London, particularly at the National Gallery. I mean, talk about a collection. They have a Seurat there that is really stunning. That is, I believe, please don't quote me on this, I believe it's of the three boys swimming.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
Amazing.
mind-blowing. Yeah.
Favorite musical.
Probably got to be a tie between Sunday in the Park with George, which I think is just an exquisite piece of art. You can say whatever you want about Hamilton. I think it is so enjoyable, truthfully.
First opera you ever saw.
It was not very good. It was a production of Manon Lescaut.
Oh.
I won't say where. Debbie Downer mess.
Favorite opera singer.
I had to give a hell of a lot of respect to Joyce DiDonato. I mean, just for a lot of the work she did, even long before the pandemic, with her work at Sing Sing Prison. Here's the crazy thing about Joyce, is that I interviewed her when I was a journalist, and it was not even like a question. It was like, oh, you're coming to see us at the Met. You're going to be on the backstage list. Oh, okay. And sure, I thought there would be no way in hell she would remember. And sure enough, there was my name.
Best live music experience of your life.
I saw Cher in concert.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite color?
Teal or purple.
Favorite food?
There is a really great Indian place in my complex that does a paneer that is pretty much the die for. If I'm really needing some comfort, that's where I'll go to.
Beach or mountains?
I think it depends on the beach and depends on the mountain. No, truthfully, I mean, one of my favorite places in the world is South Beach in Miami with beautiful, beautiful beaches. But also, I'm a fan of the mountains too, so it depends.
Best sick day excuse?
It was a legitimate one. It was actually pretty horrible. I had a colonoscopy about 5 years ago, and I got sick from them not properly cleaning the equipment afterwards.
Cool.
But it was very embarrassing to talk about. Yeah, that was awful.
Okay, you could have a weekend away with anyone who's ever lived.
There are questions I really, really, really want to ask my great-grandmother, my mother. So I'd love a weekend with Bubby. She was affectionately called just to ask the questions. I would be really interested too in a weekend where it was like an intensive cooking weekend with like someone like Nigella Lawson or Julia Child or something like that, where it was just 2 days of like learning very hands-on how to cook. Ooh. That would be a really cool weekend too.
For sure.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, you can go to any planet.
I'd be really curious about Jupiter.
You can live in any time period.
Hoi, Gavalt. We know our history so well. We know things were pretty crappy during the past, depending on where you were at. Right. I feel very much like I'm okay where I'm at. I don't think I'd want to go backward.
Okay, you can spend an entire year living as another person. I know it's Oprah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can go back in time to any time in your life and appear and tell your younger self one thing. What is it?
I think it would be when I was 16. I'm 38 now. And I was just coming out as gay. I think I would tell that young kid that like everything is going to be okay and that you would never know so many years later how things are going to change for the most part in a very positive way. I think I really needed that back when I was 16.
For sure. I can't believe you came out when you were 16.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I was a baby. Never to let someone else's anxiety, no matter how well intentioned it is, rub off onto you. I think that would be a combined lesson I'd want to teach my 16-year-olds.
Yeah. That's a big lesson from this past year, though, is just like,
oh, God, yeah.
We cannot compromise on our happiness. We must be happy, and we must not bring things or people or places or situations into our life that compromise our happiness.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's like major pandemic lesson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what's the meaning of life?
If you show up and you go in the arena and you fight, it doesn't necessarily matter if you win or lose or what the critics say. It's the fact of showing up and continuing to showing up and to dare greatly. That I think is the meaning of life right there, right?
Yeah. What was the high note of your life?
I think so far it was just realizing a couple of years ago that I was fully okay with who I was as a person solo. That took so many years. The whole idea of like feeling you need something external to make yourself whole. It really hit me about 3 years ago that I was okay. That was really revelatory and changing for me. I would say that's definite like high note.
What was the low note of your life?
Learning a lesson that you cannot put all your eggs into one organization or one thing that you do. Because you can't sell yourself 100% wholesale to something you may love so much. And I learned this the hard way several times, whether it was a client, whether it was a job that I had. I really felt like, I'm all in for this and I'll give everything, all my blood, sweat, and tears. You know what? You can't. You absolutely cannot, because it will let you down. I mean, life will let you down. When you do something like that, you're going to get hurt at one point or another. I think probably some of the lowest moments for me were when I realized that. Like, what the hell did I just spend the last 2 years, like, pouring out and trying to ethically do the right thing if this is how I'm going to be treated?
Right.
That's a hard blow to take. And it can really, because you think there's something wrong with you.
Right.
You know, why did I spend so much time on this? Whether it's a person, whether it's someone you date, whether it's an organization that you work with, that can be a really low until you build your confidence back up to say, you know, this really wasn't me. Like, let's learn the lesson so it doesn't happen again. And let's trust ourselves. But yeah, that can be really hard. And it's happened to me several times.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say about lessons. You have to keep learning them until you get it, right?
Yeah.
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 It takes a long time sometimes. Well, I hope we take the lessons of this past year and hang on to them. And,
Yes, I agree. 100%. 100%.
well, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This has been a blast.
Absolutely. It's been great.
Cool.
We'll go to Target soon.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
That's all for today's episode. Puppies and rainbows till we meet again. What do you have to say? Yeah.